Welcome back, guys. As you'll notice, I am still in the same place. I haven't moved for a day or two. No, I actually have moved. This is just, sometimes I film videos in batch. Anyway, do I think shared dreaming is possible? Do I think it's possible to have a mutual dreaming experience, as in a dream which you share with somebody else? Alright, we're moving around now because there was a weird wasp type thing over there. So do I think it's possible to have a shared dreaming experience? Well, my answer is actually going to surprise you, and it's going to go against what logical science tells us and what all evidence points to. Yes, I do think it's possible. And I'm very excited to hear all of the hate that I'm going to get from that. But the reason I think it's possible is, let me explain why I think that, okay? So firstly, for a long time, science has been playing a game of catch-up with traditional historical wisdom and knowledge, right? We are only now beginning to understand how consciousness works, and even though we do understand more about it now, we still have barely scratched the surface. I'm actually going to sit down because I'm worried I'm going to fall into this. This river here. We've only really started to scratch the surface of how consciousness works, how the mind works, and this stuff is so complex that science is not even close to understanding really how consciousness actually works in the body and the brain. And so for that reason, for example, 200 years ago, the things that were quote unquote possible or real are vastly different to the things we think and know are possible and real now. So to say that shared dreaming is not possible just because traditional science in this day and age hasn't proved it, is vastly underestimating the power of the human mind, consciousness, but it's also oversimplifying things. Science cannot prove or disprove everything. There are always going to be things that we just don't know, or that we just at the moment cannot prove or disprove. And I think shared dreaming is one of those things, because with this sort of thing, you have to look at, okay, is there evidence for it? No. Well, have there been studies conducted on it? Probably not. I mean, there are a few shared dreaming studies that show inconclusive results, but you can get studies that will prove or disprove almost anything. It really depends on a few things, which are how the study is performed. Is it statistically significant, meaning is there enough people in the study from a wide enough background that it means something? It's not just 4 people, for example, and if you had a study with 4 people and all 4 of them were not able to have a shared dream, that doesn't prove anything. That really doesn't prove or say anything at all, because those 4 people might not be able to remember their dreams normally. They might not be lucid dreamers. They might not be lucid that night. Really, to be statistically significant, you need to have a study of at least 2,000 people. And ideally with this sort of thing, to prove or disprove shared dreaming, you need to have the study being done over the course of 3 months, recording dreams and people's experiences every night, maybe have an EEG monitor so you can detect when and how often they were in REM sleep and that sort of thing. But more than that, have some way of testing it. In this case, the study would have to be something like this: 2,000 people at least, over the course of 3 months to get an average. An EEG monitor to detect when people are in REM sleep and how often. And this is important, right? A predetermined thing that they would do or meet up or say or experience that you can compare. And this needs to be a blind study, meaning each person needs to know independently of the other people, right? They need to know independently of the other people what they're going to do or show the other people in the dream, and then you can compare that afterwards. This is difficult to do. This is expensive. This takes a lot of time and energy and money, whatever. And so for that reason, that study hasn't been done. That doesn't mean it's not real and it doesn't exist. It just means that we haven't scientifically proven it, because the study is difficult to set up, it's expensive, it takes a lot of time, etc. There's also almost no motivation for that study. Which company would benefit financially from that study being done? I can't think of any, because It's not linked to a pharmaceutical product. It's not linked to a physical product. There's really no benefit. There's really no benefit for from a company. From a company's point of view, there's really no reason that a company would fund that study and make it public and invest the time and energy into doing it. So that's probably why it hasn't been done. This is the same thing with plant-based studies. No, it's not. So that's the reason, it just hasn't been done. So going back to my original point, do I think it's possible? Yeah, I do. Because not only have I had several experiences in which I strongly believe I was sharing a lucid dream with somebody else, but I also have heard dozens of experiences, just from people I know, dozens of experiences where people have entered a dream with somebody else that they've determined beforehand, they've decided to enter the dream with them. They have, without discussing it beforehand, right? So let's say, for example, two people decided to have a shared dream on a beach, okay? And this has been the case, with dozens of stories and experiences that I've heard from people I know. So they would meet on the beach in the lucid dream. They would then do something in the dream together that they haven't decided beforehand. And they would then go, and when they woke up, they would discuss what they did, having not discussed it before they entered the dream. This means they would only both know what they had done if they had both been doing the same thing at the same time. So for example, two people decide to have a shared dream on a beach. The beach is the setting, we knew that before, right? They then wake up and they both say to each other, or they both write down to make it completely fair, right? So you couldn't have just said it at the same time just for the sake of being novel. You both would write down what you did on the beach. And in many cases, at least more than half of the cases that I've heard about, the people in the experiment have written down the same thing. For example, we were on the beach and we then found a box. We opened the box and inside was a balloon. This is just an example, right? But they've both said the same thing. There is no way they could have just randomly done the same thing, opening a crate and then finding a blue balloon inside. That's very random. Very unlikely. More likely that they actually had a shared dreaming experience, especially when you consider that there are hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and probably millions throughout history, who strongly believe that they have had a shared dreaming experience. Now, just because there isn't a scientific study that proves that, with a properly set up study that's been tracked and everything like that, funded, that doesn't mean it's not real. And I know that there are a lot of you in the scientific community, in the more sort of logical group of lucid dreamers, who will say it's not been proven, so it's not real. But I would advise you to just reconsider that. It's not been proven, but that doesn't mean it's not real. It just means science hasn't been applied to it, and it hasn't been proven in a lab situation. But you've got to consider, like I say, you've really got to consider, firstly, the motivation for doing such a study and funding it, and that's a challenge in itself. And secondly, like I say, there's loads of stuff that science can't explain. That doesn't mean it's not real. So I'm not going to go into any more examples for that. That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And I know that there are many people who will disagree with me on this, but that's fine, because this is the whole point of this channel, is I share my opinions and experiences regarding lucid dreaming and altered states of consciousness and that sort of thing. So I'm fine with being disagreed with, and I'm not saying that I firmly believe that it is 100% real and fact. I'm just saying I personally believe that it is possible. I know it's not been proven scientifically, I've explained that, but I don't think that should stop us from experimenting. Because I'll leave you on this one example, this one analogy, story, whatever you want to call it. So before Roger Bannister ran the first 4-minute mile, everyone thought it was impossible, and the closest people would get was 6-7 minutes, that sort of thing, in terms of how fast could you run 1 mile. Within weeks of Roger Bannister running the first 4-minute mile, there were thousands of people around the world who did the same thing. All it took was one person to show everyone that it was possible, for them to shift their mindset and then literally allow themselves to be able to do it. And so I think this is the case with shared dreaming. Just because it's not been proven, don't let that stop you doing it. Done.
Thanks for watching, guys. This video and this channel was supported by my Patreon followers. Please consider giving just $1 a month to support this channel, or just click the links in the description. You'll find links to various lucid dreaming products, articles, techniques and tutorials. If you did enjoy this video, please click the notification bell and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Why are you still watching this? You should have clicked one of my related videos by now, right? Or subscribed or gone onto my website or something like that.